Thank you. Now I can talk. Okay. If you haven't gotten any of the handouts in back, um, there's three different handouts there, and one of them is Recipe for Planet Earth. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but it reads, do not overcook. Scientist recipe, remove oil, reduce heat, set planet aside to cool. So, and that is courtesy of a group that is called Saners, which I have had the opportunity to interact with, and they're very interesting. A man named Ray Katz is the founder of Saners, and he calls it that because he said it seems like a lot of people are kind of insane in terms of not recognizing that we've got a problem with the climate. So the Saners are committed to spreading the word about some of the things that might need to be done and how we can come together to improve our options in terms of climate conditions and what we can do about it. Well, today, theater is the topic, and we'll talk about how we can use theater, how people are using theater in order to make people more aware of climate issues and options. And this presentation, Theater and Climate Change, will delve into the intersection of art and activism. I like that. Theater, with its unique ability to bridge fact and emotion, stands out as a potent tool by making complex issues accessible and relatable. Theater is more than just entertainment. And that's one thing that I really think is significant about all the arts is yes, the arts can be entertaining. Yes, the arts can be beautiful and can take our mind off, our problems. But art also can be a very powerful tool, whether it's visual arts or performing arts, whatever literature, whatever kind of art form. It also has been recognized forever in terms of giving people a kind of insight into ideas, emotions, possibilities that they might not otherwise have encountered, starting with those images on the walls of the caves. So, and forging connections between performers and you, the audience, is really important. And today we have three presenters who are going to talk to us about how they have used or have seen theater used in order to raise awareness and promote action. And the first of them is Susan Schuld, who is associate professor in the School of Theater and Dance at the University of Florida. Previous faculties for her include she has been around, University of Illinois at Urbana, Champaign, Virginia Commonwealth University, the Actors Studio at Pace University, MFA program, Rutgers University, NYU Tisch School of the Arts, University of Northern Iowa, director in residence at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre in London, UK. She has an MFA in acting from Rutgers University, and is a designated Linklater, is that right? Teacher, certified teacher of Knight Thompson speech work and National Michael Chekhov Association. So please welcome Susan Schuld.
Hi, everyone. So I need to check because my specialty is voice, speech, accents, and dialects. So I'm afraid I'll blow the mic out of the water. So I'm going to make sure. Right on the car ride here, I'm extra loud. So today we're exploring the intersection of theater. I think up to this point, if I've read the bulletin correctly, you've been looking at art, sculpture, music, literature, and how different forms of art are helping us create a dialogue bringing awareness. And today, the three of us are going to illuminate, how does theater play a part in helping us build our awareness? Okay, so what I'm hoping to do is to reinvigorate why theater? How can this particular discipline be effective? So I think I'll go to the next slide, or the next, just the title would be great. Yeah, we can just hit forward it. Yeah, beautiful, that right there. So one of the things that I want to engage in is that I personally believe in the magic of live performances. And I know after COVID, myself included, I have begun to enjoy my space in my living room and my streaming and such. And it wasn't until the possibility of live performance was taken away from me because we needed to protect ourselves, that when I returned to the theater, I began to recognize a new awareness of what it means to be in the presence of other human beings. And what we have in theater is the ability to mix art, emotion, critical dialogue, and that makes it a powerful medium to explore complex issues. And so with all of the dramatics, we can be a wake-up call or an emotional roller coaster. So when the spotlight hits, I don't know, how many of you have actually been to theater, live theater performance, including music or such? Yes, and then see, you're my generation that I love. I have to, with my students at UF, they're like, what is theater? And I have to, to start from the bottom up. But when that spotlight hits, suddenly we're not just watching a performance. We are peeping into someone else's life, their struggles, their choices, and their outcomes. And those characters up there become living, breathing mirrors or warnings. Next slide. Thank you, Pam, for that. So if I'm going to compare, okay, why live theater versus streaming? I believe that theater is energy personified. It's raw, it's live, it's in the moment in a way that streaming, or when I'm in the safety of my living room, I can never replicate. We were participating in an art form that demands our full focus, like the performers on stage and the audience. It's turning us from passive observer to an active participant. It's a different vibe altogether. And I'm going to use that word vibe many times, and I'll explain that a little bit later, vibrations. For me, theater reminds me that I'm not alone. And not only are we sharing the space with the performers on stage, but we're actually sharing the space with the persons next to us. Okay, get this. There's a research study that was done proving how live theater connects. In 2017, it's an article from Broadway World, states researchers at the University of College London in the Division of Psychological and Language Sciences, they found that audiences' hearts synchronize when watching a play. And they did this when they studied the musical Dreamgirls, which is, that's some live energy, lots of pizzazz there. So what the team did was they monitored the heart rates and electrodermal activity. Any heart surgeons out there? I'm not sure what that is, but that's what they did. They measured the hearts of 12 audience members watching the performance, and the team found that the emotional responses and the hearts were responding in unison, with their heart rates speeding up and slowing down at the same time. All right, fun fact. The same study reported that live theater could stimulate one's cardiovascular system equally as a 28-minute workout. I'm game with skipping the gym. I mean, let's go to the theater, right? 7 days a week. Okay, so maybe not, but it's an intriguing idea. Next slide, please. So theater is immediate, it's evolving, and it's always different. So although the script is the same, every performance is uniquely different every time it happens. Title there, great, thank you. No two performances are ever the same. In this way, everyone is involved. So we're looking at not just audience members as that active participant, but we've got people in the wings. We've got the stage management, we've got the crew, we've got the technicians. Like everyone is involved as a collaboration. There is an immediacy of live theater. It's an empathy gym. It's where we get to have a workout where we're strengthening human connection. So some stories can offer, next slide, please, a window to different perspectives. Yeah, and that's one way theater is awesome. It allows us to step into the shoes of someone else. So I'm not saying don't trade shoes with people now, but right, there's that metaphor. I can step into the shoes of someone else. And when we have powerful storytelling and compelling characters, slide, we gain insights into different aspects and perspectives of the human condition. It broadens my worldview, and it could promote compassion on a large scale, right? Going back to that empathy gym. Next slide. One of the things that it does is it exposes us to humanity and psychology, motivations, conflict. It allows us to witness the journey of others. Artists not only, please, thanks, Pam. Oh, it looks like she's one more. One example how there we go. Technology, there we go. Where I had to riff. There was live theater right there. I had to riff. Okay. That theater allows the audience to witness the trajectory of persons other than ourselves. And as theater artists, the people participating, we get to put ourselves into emotional and intellectual situations that are never going to arise in my life. Next slide. Oh, sure. This is me before coffee. Okay, maybe not. Here's a production that we did at the School of Theater and Dance, Shakespeare's King Lear, and he's holding his daughter Cordelia. So one of the things that theater lets us do is we get to experience in real time. Sometimes we get to experience wrongness in real time. And this collective energy isn't random, it's the result of different people, sometimes total strangers, coming together to vibe, there we go, that vibration, we vibe off the same story, right? And when we share these experiences with others, it's like we collectively affirm something big, which is humanity. So I talked a little bit about the vibrations. Go with me on this, because I probably have some scientists in the room, so just know I'm gonna skew the facts a little bit for some fun. What if we acknowledge that we live in an Einsteinian universe? What if we played with an idea that everything is made of vibrations, right? Molecules bumping into one another, some are solid states. If I had a tuning fork, for those of you who are musicians, a tuning fork on stage, and I dinged the tuning fork and someone out in the audience was holding the tuning fork, what would happen to that tuning fork in the audience? Yeah, it would vibrate, right? And that's one of the principles that I let my students know about the importance of being on stage and how we can literally move the molecules of people in the audience. One of the benefits is that this one, truth-telling can be revealed through stories, risk-taking, advocacy for new voices. Next one. And it encourages audiences to confront our uncomfortable truths and challenge preconceptions. I mean, even in that post-show stroll that you have out of the theater to your car, and you have that engagement about what you just witnessed, I mean, that is part of the shared experience. But can theater really make a difference? Next slide. Yeah, I think so. I wholeheartedly think so. I mean, theater has been a platform and a leader in social change for centuries. Theater has the power to reflect social issues, and really important, it sparks, it ignites conversation. And you can hit it a couple of times, yeah. By bringing these conversations together, we can inspire audiences to think critically. And art, one of the ways that art is helping climate change is through an emotional appeal. Theater can bridge fact and emotion. Theater can turn emotion into action, and while I can't change policy, maybe I can influence the change makers. So through compelling narratives, one more, yeah. We're looking at taking complex issues and making them relatable. And reveal, this is just a snippet. I just tried to curate really quickly some plays that have been happening recently. And here are some of the topics that they're looking at in centering in the play. We've got Hurricane Sandy. They're talking about Greenland. I love this one, a Greek god Dionysus of theater. It comes down to restore Earth. I would love that god to come down and help us. We've got the Arctic. We've got tsunamis and Fukushima and climate refugees. I mean, all of these artists, not unlike science itself, are taking root in careful observation of the world. And when I draw or write or perform something, I am forced to examine it like a scientist and re-examine it. So the participants are also doing a very deep dive and a re-education, which leads me to educational impact. What we're looking for is a hub for unapologetic creativity. The beauty in theater is that it's an out-of-the-box thinking, right? That productions are always trying to find a way to challenge norms and put a spin on what is expected. Whether it's triggering wacky ideas or simply making us feel inspired, the vibes flowing from these performances can literally fuel a generation of innovators. It's one of the reasons I really advocate for dual degrees at UF. Go get your computer science, get your engineering degree, and come to theater, right? Really think outside the box. Because theater really isn't just about the stories that you see on stage. It's also about the gears that are turning in our head afterwards. From back in the day to now, theater has been developing this crazy ability to mix art and emotion and real talk. And while challenging the norms and shaking up the status quo, it allows us to dive into how we can have epic mirrors of what's happening and allow us to have wild dreams for a positive future. Right. It's more. So finishing up here, I just want to go back to what Mallory had suggested earlier, is that theater is not just for entertainment. That's always great, which, by the way, plug, come see Music Man at UF. It's happening till the 27th. It's about a vital part of our cultural fabric. And I believe that theater is contributing to a more empathetic and educated and socially aware society. That's why I continue to do what I do on a daily basis. I believe in creating human beings with these attributes. And so I'll just finish here before I pass the baton on to Beverly. The climate crisis has sometimes been referred to as a crisis of the imagination. And the phrase refers, possibly, to our inability to grasp the magnitude and violence of the changes that we are facing. Our inability and our reluctance to let reality, the reality of it, permeate our collective consciousness, and our resistance to envision positive futures. But here's the good thing. Imagination is the currency of theater artists. We use our imagination to create stories that will support us through and lift us up in this transformative moment. And so with that, I will pass it on to Beverly. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Beverly Ward. She is the field secretary for Earth Care Southeastern Yearly Meeting of the Religious Society of Friends, Quakers, and co-clerks the Quaker Earth Care Witness United Nations Working Group. She has taught several courses at the University of South Florida, where she has also worked as a faculty member in the Research Center. Her related experience includes conducting research and providing technical assistance to communities and local, state, and federal agencies on environmental and social justice, housing, and transportation issues. Among her publications and papers is Making Black Communities Matter: Race, Space, and Resistance in the Urban South, with Cheryl Rodriguez. She has served on several National Academies of Science Transportation Research Board committees and is currently the current research coordinator for the Equity in Transportation Committee. She is an experiential workshop facilitator, trained in conflict transformation mediation, strategies on healing for trauma and personal growth. She's an Alternatives to Violent project facilitator and helps provide community and prison workshops. She holds degrees from Vassar College, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and the University of South Florida. She lives on lands once inhabited by the Timucua, Ocklawaha River watershed and the Tocobaga, Hillsborough Bay watershed. Please help me welcome Beverly Ward.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity, especially to Sue and my partner, John Heimberg. You'll see lots of that's John and I, and I'll explain this. We have a connection there, Sue. Next slide, please. So a little overview. I'm gonna give you a little bit of introduction to explain some of the information you heard from Mallory. Talk a little bit about what we do, it's John and I, and why we do it, and how you can do it. So the next slide, please. And I tried to put in here pictures of from performances. So you heard that I'm the field secretary for Earth Care. The Quakers in the Southeast, which includes Florida, parts of South Georgia, parts of South Carolina. We also have a group in Havana and one in Nicaragua. And what I try, my charge is to help these groups discern what they should be doing about the care of the earth. And then I play with other Quakers and other groups of like mine. Both John and I have theater backgrounds. And when you're doing this work, this type of work, the environmental work, there's lots of pieces to it, including grieving, trying to affect change. So you bring your whole toolkit. And if you got a theater background, that's part, you don't shy away from it. You take it with you. Excuse me, the photo you see here is John and I performing this play called Failed Experiment. One of the authors that you had, Chantel, part of the Arctic cycle is climate change theater action, and we'll get to that. But at any rate, this is at the St. Petersburg Meeting House. And so we got these costumes from, what's that place? Party City. Yeah, and so we're two aliens talking about the Earth, yes, being a failed experiment. And one of the aliens wants to do a reboot because that alien loved dinosaurs. And so there's this bet whether or not, yes. So this is how we talk about, this is a way to talk about climate change. Okay, so the next slide, please. Okay, so part of what we do, this is John and I doing another play called The Donation from this same cycle. I'm teasing you up because I want to keep talking about climate change theater action because it's a really easy way to be involved. So we do playback theater also. And I'll tell you more about playback because I'm leading it up to my friend Sue. We're involved in at least 2 playback troops, Living Mirror Playback Theater and the Tree Ear Playback Group, and I'll tell you more about that. So the next slide, please. So what is playback theater? Basically, there are 3 parts in it, and that sweet spot is you bring art, ritual, and playback has a social conscience. Playback is an international form where the actors, musicians, and conductor, who's like a director, who helps the storyteller play back information, ideas, stories from the audience. And talk about power. People, the social piece of this is that the charge is to really get to people whose stories aren't told. So we've done playback in senior centers, Moffitt Hospital down in Tampa. We'll be teaching playback workshops virtually in the spring as part of the Quaker Friends General Conference. They do workshops every year. But the power of this is just overwhelming. As I said, it can just be an idea. And if I could get John up here for a minute, just really quick. I went until you got ready. Okay, so if somebody will give me an idea, we will give you a sample. And I don't know if the camera can pick this up. Not yet. Okay, so just, we'll do a. Zoomer's gotta hear you though too. Okay. Anything, just. Any idea? What are you feeling now? Curious? Okay. All right. Curious. Let's watch. I don't. Oh. That's curious. Okay. So it's that simple. And you heard John say, we use the forms to tell us not so much to repeat back what you said, but where did what you said land with us? And that's what it is. Next slide, please. I'll go a little bit deeper into that. Jonathan Fox was one of the founders of Playback Theater, and Jonathan Fox says, our kind of theater recreates in a modern way that old-fashioned form of a community being together and finding stories, stories which are not only entertaining, but also helpful. Again, yeah. Next slide, please. So these echoes in playback, and I don't know if you can see these well, it sort of goes out from like, okay, we have this core, and when we are playing back an idea, it kind of goes out, you can get these echoes, am I playing back an archetype? Am I playing back, how does it land with me as an actor? What did I hear? And these are the connections that you were talking about that we build, that we share collectively. And this is why theater is so important, because I can tell you and I do know some about climate, but when I ask you, what's your earliest memory from being outside as a child? Everybody's eyes go, oh my goodness, I was running down the street or I was in the woods, or, I was fishing. Yeah. So now I've opened up your heart. Okay. Next slide, please. So we, as I mentioned, play with Living Mirror Playback, which is a troupe in Tampa. We had the pleasure, a wonderful experience this summer of doing playback at this Friends conference I mentioned for a week. We were just having people, a Quaker conference, and the troupe came up with this name, the tree ear, like a tree ear mushroom. Yes. They came up with this name. And so it was more about the theme for the conference was rooted in story. And using we had this one moment where the Supreme Court decision happened while we were, and we used playback for people to express their concerns. And it was spontaneous. That was really what was really beautiful about playback. It was very quick. We could do it. We had the forms and it was immediate. And then we just found out yesterday, our proposal to do a virtual workshop for next year's conference was accepted. So it's a challenge, but we've done playback during the pandemic. We even had people, there were people from internationally who participated with us. So the next slide, please. So the other piece, some of these other photos that you saw of John and I together, we take part in Climate Change Theater Action, which was started by a group called the Arctic Cycle. It began in 2013, and every other year, to coincide with the Conference of Parties, like the Paris Climate Agreements and the United Nations Framework on Climate Change. During that period, people from all over the world who agree to collaborate get access to about 50 plays from international playwrights. And one of them I mentioned, Chantal Boudreau. Yes, she's one of the founders of Climate Change Theater Action. So all you have to do is email them and say, I want to collaborate. Collaboration does not mean you have to go out to Party City and buy a lime green bodysuit. You can actually just get the plays, have a reading in your living room, just have a reading. But what it does is that being together, that thinking about and the art, it's just wonderful. So climatechangetheateraction.com, go to the join us. This link here will take you directly to join us. Every 2 years when they do it, they have a theme. You can also look at the YouTube channel to see other performances, or email me and I'll show you some more of some actual film of recorded versions of John and I performing these plays. And the next slide, please. Oh, back. Too fast. Uh-huh. Okay. So why do we do it? Community building. It really does, you bring a group together, that happens. It's also, it's very much, being a Quaker, peace building. How can we talk about difficult subjects? And this is one way, to have some, and as you can tell, I'm kind of silly. It's a lot of fun to do this. And I put the starfish up here. Does it make a difference? For that one starfish that you throw back, it's very important. You never know where something's going to land. But if you don't put it out there, nothing, so why not? And finally, here's our tree ear mushroom troop from this summer, and I had to include them. Thank you very much again for this opportunity, and we will have more to share in probably the Q&A.
Thank you, Beverly. I really enjoyed that. That was wonderful. And that's climate change theater action. Okay, I'm going to go look that one up real quick. Okay, finally, our last speaker today is Sue Blythe. And after earning a master's degree in education, Sue taught in elementary grades for several years. And I need to put on my glasses so I can see what I'm reading. As her three daughters came into the world, she began a career as a volunteer peace educator, engaging all ages in the performing, visual, and literary arts. She served as the parent educator at the local elementary school and later taught parenting skills to students and faculty at Santa Fe College. She worked as a reduce, reuse, recycle lady for the Alachua County Waste Management, developing a countywide environmental education program. And that program evolved in her imagination for the next 20 years and is now coming to life with the help of young people and climate theater. Her collaborative storytelling adventure features fictional characters and real people living the principles for a sustainable, just, and peaceful future. She founded the Climate Collaboratory, a project of We the World and a growing network of partners. She hosts a monthly online interfaith devotional and climate conversation, providing a spiritual foundation for building community in a changing climate. Sue dedicates her work to her 9 grandchildren and future generations. Please welcome Sue Blythe.
I will sit through this. Thank you for the, whoops, let me get up here. Got it. Okay. Thank you. And I will.
Kind of close.
Is that close enough? Yeah. Good. Okay, so let me learn how to do this here. As she mentioned, I'm Sue Blythe with the Climate Collaboratory, and we are learning to cooperate, collaborate, and co-create solutions for a sustainable, just, and peaceful future. Hello, it's me, Great Grandma Sage, on the road to 2030, 2050, and beyond. I'm telling a collaborative storytelling adventure with real people and fictional characters that you see here. Some of the real people that I'm working with right now are from the Star Center Theater. And the reason I love to do this is that my young people become so excited by the possibility that we can make a difference in the world. I always start my workshops with the kids and adults as with a quotation that is the opening, the preamble of the Earth Charter. And I'll tell you a little more about that later. It says, "We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future at once holds great peril and great promise. To move forward, we must recognize that in the midst of a magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny. We must join together to bring forth a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. Towards this end, it is imperative that we, the peoples of Earth, declare our responsibility to one another, to the greater community of life, and to future generations." So the Earth Charter came out in the year 2000. And when I read it, it's almost like poetry. It was put together over almost a decade with a global consultation of about 5,000 people. And I watched as the language of this document came into almost poetry. And it's just so beautifully presented in these there are 16 principles in the 4 pillars, they call them: respect and care for the community of life, ecological integrity, social and economic justice, democracy, nonviolence, and peace. And when we're thinking of climate change, we're not really thinking about all of those unless you begin to see it as an integrated, interdependent whole, where we need all of those things, and we need people working on all of those. So that's back in 2020, in the year 2000, when it first came out, I saw clearly in my mind a theater production that just had to be done about this story. And in fact, I did put one together with young people at our Baha'i Center. Very small production, but man, it just meant the world to me that I could do something through theater with young people. And it makes a big difference in their lives. It's not clicking. Would you click, please? So principle number 14 of the Earth Charter says, provide all, especially children and youth, with educational opportunities that empower them to contribute actively to sustainable development. So that's what I tried to do. And I work with the children at Star Center Theater. This is something that we did together in, 2 years ago.
Welcome to the Climate Collaboratory. It's me, Great Grandma Sage, in the year 2050. My great-grandson Leaf wants to know about the early days of the Earth Charter Century.
Great Grandma Sage, tell me about the beginning of the collaborative storytelling adventure.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. Way back in 2022, Pacha and Paco were making a video on the road to 2030, 2050, and beyond.
Let's tell the story of how the human family came together to make a world that works for all.
Okay, we'll need to get the big picture first. We want to see the whole planet, home to 100% of humanity and the community of life on Earth.
I can see it now. There are 200 miles in space circling the human race.
On 200 miles in space, circle the
We'll need some climate science here to show the urgency of the climate emergency. Attention, attention, code red for humanity. The Earth's temperature is getting way too warm. The balance of nature has been upset. The tree of life is in danger. If we don't turn things around soon, global warming will get totally out of control.
I wonder what Born in a Cloud would say. Wait a minute while I call her in. Breathing in,
Yeah, next.
breathing out.
Okay, so Angela Terrell is the woman who brings this all together with the children at Star Center Theater. And she has just been such a wonderful part of this. And I wanted to share something that she said about this process of collaboration to bring people into the climate conversation. No? Let me go back and whoops. Oh dear.
Welcome to the
We did that. We did that. Let's see if I can get this going.
Well, first of all, I just want to shout out and say, Sue, this vision that you had over 20 years ago, it is coming into fruition. I'm glad that we're gathered here today to talk about aspects of it, but not only that, is to put it into action. Songwriters, directors, advisors, all of these things are needed. This production that we're putting on, we get ready to get to the heart of the matter. These entities are coming together to add to the playwriting and to the scripting and that kind of thing. And then finally, when they put it all together, we're going to have this awesome presentation. And I'd like to say that this is an awesome project. I'm so glad to be a part of it. And all of us come together to make this world that we live in a better place and to leave a legacy and a safe and productive earth for those that are following us for years to come.
So the production that she was working toward with these young people was called the Climate Conversation Show. And it took place for Earth Day last year, 2023, at the Star Center Theater. And they even had a role for me in the year 2050, looking back from our much more sustainable future. Looking back on the night that the kids at Star Center Theater performed the first climate conversation show. So we're planning to do this again and again, and each year I expect it's going to get better and better. So the high school kids really put their hearts and souls into this thing. This young man in the front is Caleb Little Thomas. He wrote 5 original songs for this play on the topics of planet, people, partnerships, peace, and prosperity. The 5 Ps that relate to those 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The middle school students put on little skits about each of those 5 Ps. And the elementary school students danced their hearts out, and they were doing Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. So they were all committing to make a change. And then the high school students interviewed 4 of us from the community. And this is the heart of the climate conversation in action, that the young people are reaching out to the community to see who is doing what for a sustainable, just, and peaceful future.
Throughout human history, people have told stories about how the universe was created and how life began, and how the human family came to populate the whole earth. And in each part of the world, people tell stories about past generations and their own local history.
And every one of us has our own story to tell. about this critical moment in Earth's history.
So the story that we're telling right now is Alachua County's bicentennial climate story. And we're looking at the environmental and social changes right here in our part of the world, from 1824, when our county was founded, to today, when we find so many people who are doing wonderful work for a cleaner, greener future. Whoop. So, as I said, we work with real people and fictional characters. So our storybook characters went to the Real Life Hawthorne Sustainability and Resilience Summit, which was just held a couple of weeks ago. It was a very rainy, dreary day out. It was just after Helene passed through. And we realized that we have a huge responsibility to do things here as quickly as we can. And this particular summit was put on by the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. And they brought together mayors and commissioners from around the county, as well as many of the climate organizations that are helping to get the word out in the community and do service of different kinds. And and of course, bringing in new people into this climate conversation. So that's kind of what we mean by the climate conversation in action. So our fictional characters are taking that event and using it to launch what we call the Climate Caravan. And we are using all kinds of zero carbon transportation from the city and county electric buses and cars, and adding in all of the people-powered modes of transportation. And up on the left there, you can see our story wagon, which is part of our collaborative storytelling adventure. So we're visiting each of the small cities in Alachua County during the month of November. And this is all just story. It's not really happening yet, but we want to see it happen for real next year so that we all become part of this collaborative storytelling adventure. Our characters in the story are going to go to the Alachua County Climate Summit that is being hosted by our Alachua County government at Santa Fe downtown on November 16th. And we hope that some of you will want to come down and listen to what's happening in our county. They'll be launching the draft of their climate action plan. And so next year, 2025, they want to have community climate conversations. And so our fictional characters will be following all of that and helping to bring especially young people into the climate conversation. So if we do it year by year, getting more and more people involved, we can plan to win the global goals that the United Nations set in the year 2015 for the year 2030. And so these last 6 years, we have to do some wonderful work to help create a sustainable, just, and peaceful future. And then in the year 2050, when we are going to celebrate the Earth Charter's 50th anniversary, we're also celebrating the Earth's temperature coming back down. And I like to tune in to all of the people who are now saying it is entirely possible that we can still stop the emissions, the carbon pollution that is changing the climate, and draw down the greenhouse gases so that we really can start to reverse global warming. And well, I end with the children to, let me start that again. I'd like to ask the children to join us in it's almost like a prayer that was stated in the year 2000 when the Earth Charter was launched. And these are the closing words. Let ours be a time remembered for the awakening of a new reverence for life, the firm resolve to achieve sustainability, the quickening of the struggle for justice and peace, and the joyful celebration of life. And so, we invite all of you and people all throughout Alachua County to join us in finding and drawing in the human, material, and spiritual resources. And Mallory mentioned that we do a interfaith climate group has a monthly devotional and climate conversation that we tell this story. This is where it's coming from. That we believe it's a mighty spiritual enterprise that we are involved in, learning to live together as one human family and one earth community with a common destiny. So we're looking for volunteers of all ages who are willing to help in this climate conversation in action. And the Climate Collaboratory is a project of We the World and a growing network of partners. And you see many of these. And we would love to see the ILR, Institute for Learning and Retirement, as one of our sponsors. And so if we can continue this conversation here, we can see how we might do that. And I thank you all for the opportunity to share.
And what I love about talking to Sue is that she always has that wonderful quality called hope that is so important. It's a motivating factor. Without it, I don't know. We need hope. We need the options. We need to figure out how this might be done and not give up and just say, it's way past my, pay grade or something. So anyway, she's an example. These other individuals that are here with us today are examples. The artists that I've talked about in the other sessions are examples of people coming together and taking action and not just giving up and hiding under their pillow and saying, I can't do this. We can do something. We can help. We can make this happen. Okay. Do we have any questions?
There's none on Zoom.
No questions. Questions on Zoom at all? No. Well, I guess we've solved everything then. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. And I think this was a really beautiful session. Next week, we're going to get together for one final session. And Nathan Crabb will be with us. How many of you remember Nathan from the Gainesville Sun? Wonderful head of the, comments that he used to host. And now he's working with Florida Atlantic University with their climate program and working remotely to bring together various factions that are dealing with climate issues. And he will be talking with a panel next week of people that will be representing various fields, film, literature, the theater in terms of history of the theater. So we'll have some very interesting panelists, and I hope that you will all bring a question to ask, and we'll see if we can get some responses and some interaction going here. So thank you so much for joining us. and have a great week. And hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same place. Thank you.